I am joined this week by Neil.
Hello, Joey.
And by Dom.
Hi there.
How does everyone else feel about supporting an heir apparent Premier League side?
Yeah. Used to it by now, aren't we?
It's happening, baby.
Again. God.
It is happening. Moments of the fortnight, week, whatever else. Who's got one?
Oh, we've got one. We've probably got exactly the same one, but mine is very, very obvious. Dom, is yours less obvious?
I'll go a bit tangential for this one. Where on Saturday morning I was walking out of Coventry train station, ready to take my trip up to the stadium, and there was a lot of Middlesbrough fans walking out of the train station at the same time. And I was thinking to myself, you know what, Middlesbrough, they're not so bad. What if we'd lost to them? Maybe I don't really feel anything bad about Middlesbrough, the place or the city. Then at that point, one of them goes, "Oh, look at that bike over there," and then one of them tries to grab my bike out of my hands and
What?
managed to shake them off. And then the rest of my cycle up, I just wanted blood. So
Yeah,
nice one, Middlesbrough.
yeah, ruined it for everybody, haven't they?
Oh, that's not very nice, is it?
Yeah.
What's going on this year, Dom? You're getting involved in all sorts of tussles and scuffles.
This is
Yeah.
This is less moments of the week, and it's become like Dom scrapes.
Yeah.
That's horrible, though, isn't it? I don't like that.
That's rubbish. Ruined your day? Or you just get past it?
No, it's just sort of like, as soon as I sort of cycled off it, I was just like, nah. It's one of those things. I still got my bike. I still go on. I didn't get into an actual fight, so that's pretty good. And that's all you can do.
Well, needless to say, you had the last laugh.
Yeah, and
Quite a bit.
Well, I was going to say beautiful, but very specifically not beautiful. Neil?
Yeah, no partial fights or anything for me. Moment was very much Ridoni's second goal, and it had to be. There aren't many moments when I'm watching football where I get that tense on senior optimism. I'm always thinking it's going to come and it'll be all right. And that second half, knowing that there was a goal for them or a goal elsewhere, which could potentially ruin things quite a lot for us. It got very tense in that second half for me for a little while. And then, that goal 2-0 suddenly felt quite comfortable. So yeah, just the release of, thank God for that. It wasn't quite, Biamu versus Notts County levels of, my God, we've done this. But it was very much, God, I needed that. I needed that buffer. What a moment. And it was made worse by the fact that can't get any signal in the CBS at all. I had no idea what was going on. And the only person who seemed to know was one guy behind me who I make an absolute big effort not to talk to because he's a bit peculiar. So I couldn't ask him. So, it took me a good 5 minutes after the match to figure out if we'd finished 5th or 6th, which shouldn't matter, but it did matter because I wanted to know who we were playing. So yeah, that was my afternoon.
There's if you're sort of at all interested in these things, there's like a discussion on the sort of the way that we remove services that the elderly favour in favour of like progress. So the classic one is the closure of banking branches and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's a shame for old people because that's how they prefer to deal with it and whatever. But young people are like, it's blah, blah, blah. But I tell you what, we saw what happens when people with transistor radios get removed from games because nobody near me had got a fucking clue what was going on.
You too as well, yeah?
We get, constantly, it was like, someone must know. Everyone's like, I've got nothing. Like, I've got absolutely nothing on my phone.
The world of communication. Yeah.
Occasionally, someone's live scores would come through and it'd be like, I think I've got something. But it was too unreliable to even, like, you didn't know whether it had come from 10 minutes ago or whatever. So I didn't know what had happened until the end of the game. I knew at halftime Bristol City were losing.
Yeah.
But I only found out that they'd drawn at the end of the game. Like, it was weirdly, it sort of made me feel quite a lot better to not really know or whatever. Because I think if I'd have just I think I was able to just focus on the game. But it was unusual. Usually in a game like that, it sort of travels by osmosis, doesn't it? Where you just find out. No, I got fuck all.
No chance. Not in that place. Not with that signal. And you're right, actually. I think I wasn't worrying as much about the other clubs as I thought I would be early on in the day, given the week I'd had, pretending that I really cared about what they were all doing. Like, I wasn't. I was really focused on the fact that we wouldn't mess it up, because actually it became very clear that as long as we got our job done, and we just get that second goal, nothing else is going to affect us. But yeah, it was just odd. Knowing that we'd got made it, win was fine, but then I just really wanted to know if we were 5th or 6th. And I could not find out. I could have found out. I could have asked the guy behind me, but no. I just, I have my own phone. I have my own means. Like, that should be the way it is. But, what do we do? What do we do if this ever happens again? Do we bring back the radios?
I don't know. I guess so. But I'd love to know from Wi-Fi experts why.
I was reading up on it.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'd think of you as a Wi-Fi expert. Have you got have you got an inside view of what you've learned?
Well, no. So I'm going to get laughed off by people listening, but it's more about the infrastructure within the stadium. So bear in mind, the Ricoh was built in 2005, a long time ago. It wasn't prepped in the same way that Wembley, although that was built, but that has been now purposely built with EE as a partner and all that sort of stuff. So they've just got all the different stuff, all the transistors, that's not the right word, but all that stuff around the stadium, which helps the signal get in there, and it can completely cope with it. Whereas the Ricoh doesn't appear, I'm going to call it the Ricoh, doesn't appear to have that kind of infrastructure in place, and also no real Wi-Fi turned on for us peasants. If you're in the media, you're fine, and I'm sure there were no problem for them, but there's no Wi-Fi at all for the public, so not great. And what about if you're at a concert and you want to send a poster to the Instagram? What are you going to do? You have to wait till you get home?
Yeah, you're going to. I suppose you'd have to get a life, wouldn't you?
God, live in the moment. No, get off your phone.
Beautiful. Well, look, yeah, clearly the moment of the week is the success that we've had, such as it is. And I am going to pepper some things that need pointing out, I would say. Firstly, a massive fuck up on my part last week, omitting the very, very clear moment of the previous period, which is the absolute Coventry City treasure that is Martin Warren and his annual trip to Sheffield for the Crucible.
Yes.
Wrap that man in cotton wool, protect him at all costs. This guy is a legend beyond from the driest breakfasts that anyone's ever seen to the single wettest breakfast that I've ever seen. And just, it's so lovely. Just what a great time he's had. And to share that with everyone it's a lovely thing every year. It's appointment viewing for my wife, I show her all of the photos that he's put up. And it's a lovely thing. So thank you, Martin, for sharing your experience with us. That's always an absolute joy. We have got 8 minutes into this podcast without talking about, Clive Eakin stepping down after 24 years of service. And I think we should be very, very clear that whilst we have been, we've had some fun at Clive's expense over the years, like he's a huge part of all of our lives, isn't he? And he does a good job. We like pick fun at like kind of mispronunciations of names and the journalistic quality of some of his questions towards Frank Lampard. But this is a guy that this is a good commentator and clearly a good guy and someone that served us all very, very well over the last God knows how long. So God bless you, Clive, and I hope that wherever you go, you're happy and whatever else.
You know what I miss? He makes you feel it, doesn't he? He really, like you say, the errors, the mistakes, and the dawning of iFollow has really highlighted how rogue he might go sometimes in terms of his description of the match. But all of these sort of the iconic stuff, the first thing I want to do when I see the highlights afterwards is to check to see what his reaction was to it. And then, you look at the finals at Wembley and that Gyökeres goal when he ran from the halfway line. It's just, there's something about his voice, the emotion that he throws into it. Like, we're not saying he was pushed, but we're going to miss him. That's all No, we're not saying he was pushed, by the way. We're really not.
Well, we don't know, do we? We've got absolutely no knowledge.
We've got no reason for something.
But I said it as a joke, and then I got a handful of responses that was like, "Oh, is that what happened then?" Do you know what I mean?
This hasn't made it worse, has it? Yeah.
you're like, I was joking, but now I think that is what's happened. But the thing is that the stuff, it doesn't matter, does it? Like, it's like we joke about the mispronunciations of names, but we had Paul on this podcast for 10 years. Like, we're hardly in a position to fucking criticise. And I've been wrong about it, especially this season more than any other season. I don't think I've ever been as wrong as I have consistently this season. Every single time that Brandon Thomas Asante has scored this season, I have 5 minutes before said, I can't imagine a situation ever where this guy will score. And then he scores 5 minutes afterwards. And like, it's horrendous. And so you can dish it out and you can take it, can't you? Like, he's not perfect, but he's ours, and we love him. And so
I like it.
I wish him all the best. And I just think it's all right to say, look, we're not, apropos of nothing, saying bad questions, Clive. It's funny because you can see that Lampard is responding to it. That's why we're pointing it out. You go like, well, yeah, I can see why he would not like these questions. Anyway, right. Love you, Clive, wherever you are. And all the best for the future. Let's hope that your last job is commentating at Wembley, clearly. We just mentioned the man himself there. I thought Brandon Thomas Asante, dare you say it, best performance in a sky blue shirt, Dom?
It's got to be up there. We'll say also, if you think about kind of to the start of this run we've been on since January, it was his goal against Bristol City that kind of kicked it all off. And he's gone and wrapped it up into the top six. And like someone who I think most people would say has been a pretty underwhelming sign, hasn't quite made the impact we've wanted him to. He's stepped up with some big goals and big contributions. He's probably got goal of the season wrapped up as well for that goal against Swansea.
Oh shit, I forgot he scored from halfway line. Oh god.
Yeah, and he almost scored a screamer on Saturday as well.
I think that would have been goal of the season, because actually he beats about 3 players before he hits that as well. Like, it's that would have been very special, I think.
Yeah, and if you can just find a way to just like channel that enthusiasm, that pace, that willingness to attempt things, which not many other players in this squad has. There's a great player there. I suppose the question is, do we just keep him as an impact player? Or when you look at sort of how little's gone on at centre forward over the past month or so, does that sort of lead to that temptation to sort of free him from the start? Because when we kicked off this run in January, Thomas Asante was getting starts and he was making an impact. And it's actually been quite rare that he's made contributions from the bench the way he did. Partially, I think he's sort of been thrown on in games where we've been behind, and that kind of hasn't suited him because there's less space to run into. He's not super physical to like impose himself into the game. So I would be very tempted to start him on Friday night. I think it's just that, enthusiasm, energy, that willingness to chase things, to try and make things happen. I think that's been something that's been missing recently and could be quite valuable.
Neil, I know that you agree with that, don't you?
Yeah, clearly. I do. Yeah, I don't. And you know why. I have my thoughts on that. I think, and the reason why I don't is not because I don't like the idea, because actually if somebody plays well and there's a position where you're not really kind of utilising that position as well as you could do, it makes absolute sense. I think I'm being very specific to him, where I think, he's just coming back from this sort of chronic injury where he's shaking it off. I want to make the best use out of him as I possibly can. And I just think, if you're only going to get 30 minutes out of him, realistically, at his prime sort of manic level, I want to give him another go at doing what he did the other day against tired defenders, rather than, everybody who's just starting the match, everybody's kind of focused. You know how tight these playoff games go. I just think for me, if I'm balancing it all, I think I would much rather he has 30 minutes where he comes on and is desperate to make that impact and is working against tired defenders than the alternative, which is more likely going to be, Ellis Sims coming on for the final 30 minutes, who, for all of the will in the world, and while he might try, I don't think urgency is ever going to be a thing that you're going to get from Ellis Sims in the same sort of way. So I think if you're balancing those two options, you stick with Ellis. And I think there's a matter of sort of momentum and rhythm and stuff. And while we lost those 2 games before the one that we just had, I think broadly there's a shape kind of developing there. The fact that Sheaf and Grimes and Rodoni are building some sort of triangle in the middle there. You've got him as the focal point up front at Sims. So I just think, you probably stick with it. Try Asante. Then obviously, if he goes mad again and puts in that performance, because I genuinely do think it was his best for us by far. I think there wasn't really an error in there. It was just him getting involved, being strong, being quick, and making the right decisions pretty much every time. So yeah, very, very pleased with what he did, and I'd like to see it again.
To what extent was that performance so good? Because it's hard not to compare it to the player that's come off the pitch.
I mean,
if you'd, I imagine, what's the worst hotel you can stay? I stayed in a hotel in Blackpool once that I think cost £15, right? And it was it was 15 quid for 2 single beds there was 50 quid between me and a mate of mine, right? And it was fucked, but it was fine because we just went to sleep in it late at night. But if I had just come back and I was Terry Waite and I'd been chained to a radiator for however long it was, right? I'd be like, this is a really, really good hotel, yeah? To what extent is Brandon Thomas Asante that hotel in Blackpool, and Ellis Sims is just it's Terry Waite?
It's a superb analogy. Maybe not. I mean, he was good, wasn't he? I don't think we'll compare it to anything. He was just in his own right. He did a good job. He was strong. He bustled people off the ball. He didn't do much. He didn't have much time to do much, but I think everything he did do, it was good and useful, wasn't it? Can you remember anything he did that was bad?
No. So don't get me wrong. It was obviously I'm being hyperbolic for effect because it's 2025 and you can't say that someone's had an average performance, right? But I just think the thing that we do at the moment is struggle, the same as last season and probably the season before that, struggle against teams who sit back against us and do better against teams that are trying to come more at us, right? So that's fine. That makes sense, doesn't it? And we talked about this with Gav the other day. I think the teams below Sheffield United, even including Sunderland to some extent, are all roughly the same, right? So it makes sense. Middlesbrough had to come out at us, and it meant that the really whizzy players who had got more space to play in and looked better as a result. I thought Sakamoto was brilliant. I really, really loved his use of the ball more than anything else. Just thought his crossing, just created a lot of chances that I thought were really, really good and whatever else. The connection between Rodoni, even Grimes, even Sheaf to some extent, Sakamoto, Wright, everyone seemed like, even though the last thing that happened, like the very final pass or the very final shot sometimes could leave a little bit to be desired. All of those pieces with a little bit of space, you thought, there you go. That's your top 6 deck. I know that's a fucking horrible, blah thing to say, right? But you're like, these are really good players. These are really good players. Sometimes it's hard to break down a team that's sitting back, right? I just didn't think that Sims was in it. I just didn't think he contributed in a single bit of it. Bearing in mind the amount of opportunities we could or should have had to play it back to someone, like for dumb argument's sake, on the penalty spot, waiting to score. He was never in that position. For the amount of times where we would like to have someone dragged out of position, just the very, 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 very basics of someone operating at the same level as his teammates that are doing very well. He didn't have a bad game, but given how luxurious everything else seemed to be on the pitch, he's just fucking miles off it. And it's just not good enough. When you could have brought Wright inside, or you could have done a million different things. I'm really conscious of the fact that, sorry, I know I'm going on. I'm so visceral about it because I've defended him for ages. And I'm really fucked off that I've defended him for ages because now I'm like, I'm not having it. I don't think he was terribly good. And I'm being, superlative for superlative's sake, Thomas Asante did have a very good game when he came on, but it was mainly because he tried.
I offer one bit of defence for Sims in that I do actually agree. I do agree with what you're saying. My defence is, I think he was up against a defender who bashed him quite heavily, and it was a hard fight for him, but I don't think necessarily he was up for the fight. Like, you've got to be... I do think he was... Yeah, look, at most of the headers, the guy was all over him, and he won them. I'm not saying he should win him, because Sims is, what is he, 6'4" as well? He should be making an effort for that. But the only other point I will make on that is, now the more I think about it, I was thinking at the time, all the space that Thomas Asante had in that final 20 minutes, you're sort of thinking, I wonder what Sims thought about all that. It's like, I'm getting marked heavily, and then suddenly they have to throw everything at it, and this guy's just got a lot of space to run into. Like, it was a different game for him.
Was it, or was it that Thomas Asante played it differently? Was it that he dropped deeper and found space, or was it that he I'm not totally...
I think it was a bit different. They were incredibly high by that point. I mean, they were basically halfway line. Not. I'm not saying he would have done anything. It's all about personal sort of endeavour, isn't it? Like, he definitely played it differently, but I do. The game was different at that point as well. So it's like, it's not.
I think it'd be churlish of me to disagree with that point. All I will say is, I actually think that we've talked about this with complaining about Andy Turner describing Sims and Wright as the big lads, right? Because I think it's a reductive thing, and it's not how they play. I think they can, at a push, have a go at it, but it's not how either of them play. And explicitly, I don't think it's how Sims plays. I think he has to be cajoled into it, which is absolutely fine, right? Just because you're big doesn't make you a big man in football parlance, as far as I'm concerned. But what you should be, as far as I'm concerned, Sims, above all else, is a goal scorer, a kind of like against all odds, goal scorer. That is your kind of trademark headline thing, I think, is that you're a guy that will score goals. And I don't really expect you to do anything else. I don't need you to hold the ball up. I don't need you to do any of that stuff. What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to be in and around the box, and I would like you to shoot and score goals. And the team that we have at the minute are creating so many chances, or at the very least on the cusp of creating so many chances, because often there's either someone not there or that we hold on for too. I think if we had a really, really clever, good movement striker, I think we could be absolutely bombing goals at the minute. If we had, who would be who would we describe as being the player? Do you know, fucking Paul is going to kill me for saying this. If we had Matt Godden at the minute, I think Matt Godden would score quite a lot of goals in this team.
It should be that funny, should it? Because he still scored loads of goals for us in the Championship. It's not like he didn't do it then, did he?
But I don't need Matt Godden. I don't need Matt
Josh
Godden
Sargent
to be like well, that's obviously the gold standard for it. But I don't need Matt Godden to like be dominating defenders.
No,
I'll put up with him just being in the right place and scoring the chances that he gets. The problem with Sims is that Sims wasn't doing either. And then Thomas Asante comes on, and you're right, with more space and whatever else. But also, Thomas Asante was willing to go wider and was willing to find the ball in different places and was willing to charge at people and stuff like that. And I don't need Sims to do any of those things. I just need him to do one thing well. And over the last 10 games or so, I'm not sure I could pick out one thing he's done well over that period of time. And so I sort of agree with both of you. I would ideally like to start Sims and bring Thomas Asante on, mainly because of his injury and to ease him back. Problem for me at the minute is I don't think you can persevere with playing Sims because I don't think he's offering anything at all.
Had you right?
Well, yeah.
Instead, and then hopefully do something on the left, I don't know.
Well, and I was surprised we didn't see him through the middle a bit sooner, because I thought, given that he'd ripped Sunderland apart with a little bit of space through that same position, and given that we got so many players willing to try and play through balls. But anyway, Dom, where do you stand on this?
Yeah, I think I'm leaning towards signing Thomas Asante. I think if we're going to rule out the possibility as well that Mason Clark will be in any way involved in this playoff campaign, I think our forward options are very slim at the moment, and certainly in terms of forward options in form. Right since that hat trick, it's just been very stop-start, where there's occasionally been moments, but he just hasn't looked quite as switched on as I've sort of wanting to be. I know he's sort of that player who can float in and out of games and is someone who will do strange things in order to sort of get closer to scoring a goal. It's kind of Wright's process, and you don't really want to mess with that. But I do have the sort of underlying feeling at the moment that Lampard isn't quite sure what he wants to do with Wright, where I think he wants to play him through the middle, but through the combination of Mason Clark being injured, and I think just like quite a few performances from Wright at centre forward, where he's just been really ineffectual and hasn't really looked up for doing the kind of things that you want a centre forward to get himself into the game and the team into the game. It's kind of ended up back on that left wing by default, and the performances have been quite patchy, I think. So that's how I kind of end up with wanting to play Thomas Asante, wanting to start Thomas Asante for this next leg, because it's not quite clicking in those forward positions. We've got Rudoni in excellent form. Sakamoto on Saturday was a really nice return to form, because I think for quite a few games recently, Sakamoto has just looked really indecisive and really scared to play, to take risks. So that area had been a bit of a concern recently. But we've got Rudoni kicking into form. You want to keep Wright on the pitch because there's always a chance that he's going to do something, no matter how poorly it seems like he's playing.
And by
He's
the
just
way,
one of those players
in a big game as well.
Yeah.
This is a guy that almost falls ass backwards into big big game goals.
Yeah, and then I think the question is it Ella Sims or Brandon Thomas Asante? I don't know how fit Brandon Thomas Asante is, but if he can give us 60 minutes or something close to that of what he did on Saturday, I don't know if that's feasible, but I just think like just some enthusiasm and someone who's going to try and take risks and try and unsettle opposing defenders at centre forward, that's worth giving it a try right now, because we're just not getting performances out of our striker at the moment. So that's where I am with Thomas Asante starting.
Fair enough. Well, look, if that was contentious and warranted half an hour of conversation, I think this is going to really be even much more explosive. For both of you, who would you start in goal next Friday? Would you start Collins or Ben Wilson? Take your time because it's a complicated question. I think that a lot of people will.
I can't tell you how much more comfortable I was with just the entire demeanour of Wilson in goal the other day. Just because, like, I think I mentioned to you guys or something, like this idea of Collins making sort of assertive decisions but delivering it really sort of passively. Like, the one thing you get from Wilson realistically is if he's making that decision, he's getting there, and he's like, yeah,
all right, yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, okay, that just makes more sense to me. Like that time when second half where I think they were through, and he ends up like 40 yards out of his goal because he just slammed it out, and it's just like, yes, fine. If you're going to do it, just do it. Like, and it helps other people around you because they know you're not going to pull out of it. They know you're just doing it, and those, I think, demeanour is everything for a goalkeeper. And him, like, you don't really know. You know, he's a bit of a joker. And then there's a little clip unseen of him being a bit of a leader, like just stomping out of the dressing room, telling everybody, fight for each other, all this sort of stuff. It's like, yeah, okay, he's got a voice. I can't imagine Collins having that same voice, that same sort of authority, which isn't great for a goalkeeper either. And then I just think, he did all the things you wanted to do well. He got rid of the ball. He's not the same sort of, he's not a calm, short passing goalkeeper, but I'll be honest with you, I don't really care. I'm happy with him sending it forward. I'm happy with him making saves. I'm happy with it being loud and making assertive decisions and then following through.
well, on top of this, and Dom, you're cleverer with this sort of thing than me, so it might be me not reading the situation correctly, right? But I thought that a lot of our success on Saturday came as a result of being a bit more direct. I don't think we took as long to get the ball forward as we often did, and I think we supplanted Grimes a little bit more than usual. And that sounds like a sort of tacit criticism of Grimes, but actually Wilson's happiness to go a bit longer, I don't think served us badly at all. I thought he got the ball to Sakamoto quicker in a position where he'd got a chance to get his feet right without getting absolutely fucking hammered by a defender. And like, do you know what I mean? Like, I just thought there was a number of different reasons why the varied distribution that Wilson gave us was successful.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
Yeah. No. I wonder if it's I was going to say, I wonder if it's less tendency to go long and more instructed to go long early and stop messing around with it. I think part of the reason that Collins had been favoured for so long was the passing, and I think, like, for all of the rightful criticism that Collins has come in for, I think back to the West Brom game, their home game recently, and like some of the passes Collins was picking out was like really impressive, sort of the long range passing. But he was just making too many mistakes. So you just
redundant, isn't it?
Yeah, it's better to have someone imperfect who's less prone to make mistakes than someone close to your ideal. The sort of that sort of situation Man City were in when they brought in Claudio Bravo, who was doing the passing, but he wasn't doing the saving. And I think it kind of suited Wilson, I think, to come in for an important game where the focus was on getting the result. I think that favoured his personality and his attitude. He wasn't going to wilt in that situation. If he was going to make a mistake, it was in trying to be assertive rather than having something happen to him. But it was interesting after the game, I thought, that the suspicion that Wilson hadn't been starting recently because he was not fully fit was confirmed. And what I wondered about that was why were we keeping our cards so close to our chest on that one? Because yes, no one wants to give out injury news and like let the opposition know what kind of team we're going to pick, but doesn't that put a lot of pressure on Brad Collins that wasn't necessarily warranted? If people knew that the only reason Collins was playing wasn't just because Lampard thought he's the best option available, but there was a reason for it. There wasn't necessarily to do with
is that good for Collins?
Talent.
Him.
That's what I was going to say. This is where I think Lampard deserves a huge amount of credit. Is I think that if you say, listen, the only reason that Collins is playing is because Ben Wilson's injured, that's basically you're sending out a guy like to kick the shit out of. I think the way that Lampard has handled the Collins situation has been unbelievably classy in terms of like managing that as a human being and a player and managing the best interests of the club. I think he's got that right. I think we would have dragged Collins sooner, but I think as a manager, you probably think the data tells me that this guy is more likely over a number of games to overcome these problems and give us the things that we want that have good results. But then he wasn't so stubborn as to change it. My guess would be as well that Wilson, but reading between the lines, probably could have come in a game or two earlier, in the same way that managers quite often tell players, have an injection, pull your shorts up and get the fuck on the pitch, which isn't right, but fair. I bet he could have been told to fucking get on with it. I just think he's dealt with it. But to your point there, Dom, is that I think the thing is, if he says, oh, it's because Ben Wilson's injured, all you do is you're basically hanging Collins out as, well, I've got to play this prick because I've got no other keepers.
But there's a way of saying it that's not that. It's not we go, well.
So let's say Frank Dompard How would you have told? I'm Clive. So Dan, it's great to speak to you. Who's your first? Actually, that's an open question. Is Brad Collins your number one keeper?
Yes, he absolutely is at the moment. We're in a situation where we're short on goalkeepers, we're short on fit goalkeepers, and we know that Collins is a very experienced goalkeeper, and we're very happy to have him as our number one at the moment.
So he's only your number one. You know how Paxman Eakin is. So he's only your number one because the other keepers are injured. Is that what you're saying, Dom? Dan.
No comment. And I leave.
You've taken the fifth. We all know what that means.
It's fair dues. Okay. I disagree. I think he's handled it fair. I think he's handled it pretty well. The other thing, by the way, on Ben Wilson is, so he's got this reputation as being a sort of the joker in the pack. But you've just said there, Neil, you're right. This was a lovely bit of a glimpse into the leadership skills. But more than anything, in the post-match interview, did anyone just think, what a lovely guy?
Yeah.
What a really nice bloke. Just what a really, smashing lad. Just, I thought he was very honest and candid and thoughtful and like reflective. Like he was just like, I was injured a bit and I felt bad and I wasn't training properly and it's hard and I was worried about coming into
yeah.
So it was quite a like a vulnerable interview. Like,
yeah.
Like no platitudes whatsoever, very honest and whatever. I just thought, you seem like a really lovely bloke.
He's really interesting because everybody talks about his personality and he's all funny and everybody says, he's the main man in the dressing room and all that sort of stuff. And even in the interviews, he'll always have a little wisecrack every now and again, but there's still a hint of, he seems nervous in the interviews. He seems to like, not quite be at ease with what he's saying, but then he'll try and calm himself down with a joke here and there. And it's just like, maybe is it because he just, how old is he now? 32? I mean, it's mad his career, isn't it? Like he barely played at all until he came to us. Like, and now he's just still getting used to being the man in front of the camera for the interviews. He did a few the year when we got the playoffs, but yeah, it struck me how he still had that nerves about him, even though everything else is so sort of brash and sort of jokey.
There's a thing through sort of increased reading and listening and all the content out there that there is with football that's quite unusual. And I think was it me and you were talking about this, Neil, about managers that like I was saying to you about Klopp and Ancelotti, where their big USP is seemingly that they're like the only two managers in history that are just nice guys, just nice blokes. Everyone else has got like a chip on their shoulder, but them two are like, if you've had a problem, you can go home today if you want. And people are like, oh, I love that. No one's ever been that nice to me before. But equally, like the Grimes has come in and a load of people have been like, it's been amazing having him here. And Jamie Patterson, but it may be just what you'd consider to be like common courtesies in a football dressing room, like another player saying, are you all right? Maybe just everyone is, and understandably so, because they're such like unicorn level athletes or whatever. Maybe everyone is just so wrapped up in their own shit that, that's what you do. You kind of come into work and that you lack someone like that Ben Wilson has had a terrific latter stage career, but isn't like, it's not Joe Hart or whatever, but I wonder if it's just terribly powerful to have someone in there that's like, is everyone all right?
Yeah. There was somebody, there's a really interesting to that point. Like at that moment where Wilson was walking out and was giving his little bit of a boost up to everybody. Somebody said to him, and you couldn't see it on camera, somebody said, what a game to come in for, eh? Somebody was like bolstering him up in that moment as well. I was like, was that Grimes? Was that saying? Somebody said it to him. I was like, well, you don't really get that level of depth. Oh, come on, have a good one, all that sort of stuff. But somebody actually like recognizing his situation and saying, oh, look, this is the day for you. Let's go and get it done. I think it might have been Grimes.
I think... and I'd like to get onto this next, actually, because I think it's a fun conversation to have. I still swear down that, and this isn't to criticise Lampard in any way, I still think Robins was capable of precipitating this turnaround. I think the longer that the season's gone on for, I think what we have seen was a statistical blip similar to what had happened in previous seasons, and he'd overturned those and had overcome them, and it was fine. The argument against that is it was the first time in ages where it's felt like there wasn't quite the same vibe around the club. But it's possible that that's just part of losing a bunch of games and that maybe we didn't see it as frequently as previous seasons. The flip side of that is I'm not sure we've seen this level of like fucking backs to the wall, we die for each other level camaraderie since when we went up in League Two and that squad of players. Like it's now gone, but like the tats nonsense of the darts and everything, like they just seem to be, it's lovely at the minute, this kind of loving between the players. It does and it doesn't seem even like previous City and scenes. I apologise to everyone that doesn't love to analyse player bonding like me and Neil do. But like even previous City and scenes in like last year or so tended to be like Milan and Fabio and whatever. But this is a really big together group by the looks of it, isn't it? It's really lovely to see and really heartwarming. And I just don't, from what I know from precedents of players talking about when things go well, it is fucking massive. I just think it's really a big part of success.
Yeah. And I think that's what I was kind of worried. I think we spoke about it early in the season because we lost so many people who were like those ever presents over the last 5 years. We lost all of them at the beginning of the season, apart from sort of a smattering. And there was all that talk about not having leaders. And it's not that we've now suddenly got leaders, but I think we've actually, some people have grown into their sort of their place in the squad, and Grimes turning up, and you heard Lampard the other day talking about Thomas. He's growing into his role as a leader, and I think it was just like a maturing of some of the players in the squad. It was relatively new. There was the voices had gone. New people have to come and establish their voices, and maybe that's what's happening. Maybe more people are getting a little bit more confident, and they're able, like Jay De Silva. Like you were looking at him, you're like, oh, this is just a guy who's going to mill about in the background, but he seems to have a right old personality on him. He's like the guy, he's the man who everybody's looking at. Oh, Jason De Silva, singing away and that. It's just like, it's cool. I like it.
He's no longer just Casey Palmer's mate.
No, exactly that, yeah. Out in the shadows.
But I think it might seem silly to be talking about things at the level that we're talking about with this sort of thing, right? I just don't think it is. I think it's as valid as talking about tactics, or it's as valid as talking about any other facet of football, because this is still people going to work, right?
Yeah.
We've all had jobs, and we've all had shit bosses, and we've all had like colleagues that you fucking can't stand or whatever. And you've all had good jobs where you've gone, I really like, and they're all those bits. These are, Jay De Silva is a really good case in point. I think I said about a month ago that I would tell him to go and like sit out and go and find another club. There's a real strong argument to make that since I said that, he's been our absolute outright best player. But like, obviously Radoni, there's like a couple of players that would probably beat him, right? But genuinely, when he got sent off, I was like, that's a massive fucking blow to us because he has been brilliant.
Yeah. Oh, Jason, he's gone. No.
I'm like, he's dead. He's got no way back into the club. No, he's fucking brilliant, right? But he wasn't shit before. He's not amazing now. Probably some of that is just like, it's just happiness and functionality and a load of those different things, isn't it? It's just really nice to see it all ticking over. I am now going to push you both for a could or would this have happened under Robbins? I'd like to hear Dom first.
I think my suspicion is that this was a pretty good squad, and we were getting unlucky earlier in the season, and I think we would have improved. So I think especially in terms of what do we think Lampard has done differently compared to Robbins, and it's not a huge sea change in terms of style and approach. I think there's an aspiration to be this really big passing team that we want to be. But as sort of push come to shove, it's back to the old sort of Robbins sort of moments football where we're sort of locked into, we know who our key performers are, and it's about making sure we get the best out of them. And yeah, my suspicion is that maybe Lampard has done like 10% better than what Robins would have done over the same period. But it's not been a huge revolution. We haven't like completely transformed from the team that we were at the start of the season. There's a lot of similarities, and we had a great run over February, March. That set us in a really good position, and we've seen out the season as a competent to good team heading into the playoffs. And we've probably also benefited a little bit from it being a relatively low points total to aim for to get into the playoffs.
Relatively low. Is this not literally the lowest points that anyone has ever managed to accrue and finish with?
67 would have done it. That's crazy, isn't it?
It's very polite. I like the relatively low. Yeah, it's true. But then that's a double-edged sword, I suppose, isn't it? Because what that indicates is that it's a very compressed sort of talent pool of teams going for it. But then you've still got to then be the one that comes out on top. Effectively, you're graded on a curve. So it's less about kind of like smashing everyone up, because if you haven't got the opportunity to keep scoring goals against Andorra, I heard a good thing about Cristiano Ronaldo versus Lionel Messi recently about their relative statistical qualities. And it said the one thing that you can look at with Cristiano Ronaldo that sets him apart is he's an unbelievable international goal scorer. But you've got to adjust for the fact that Lionel Messi isn't playing Andorra and Liechtenstein, and they were like the hardest game that he's going to have is against Bolivia, so like a level above. And I think the same applies this season, is that it's 60, it's low, but there's a reason for that. That's because it's hard in a weirdly different way that's allowed Burnley to finish second on 100 points and only conceding 16 goals. But as a statistical thing, I still think it's oddly, despite how low the points tally is, I think it's still a really huge achievement to finish in fifth.
Yeah.
Just a different one. Neil, Robins?
Yeah, I think it's fair to suggest that, you know, he would have found a way. Like, I mean, if you look at it at base level, the players are basically the same. I think it was a fair criticism, actually, the more you look back, that something seemed to have gone awry with the coaching setup and what had gone on with Vivash and stuff, and that there was a layer of sort of I don't know, discontent or something going on around that area, and you know, we needed to get that sorted. So whether that would have been Doug sticking his nose in and bringing somebody in on Robinson's behalf, or just making it happen, or whatever. But I think the real question was really just how quickly Robins could have got us into some sort of rhythm. And to be honest, you know, we look at Lampard, he didn't really get us into any sort of rhythm until January either. So it wasn't like it was this blitz of results, which suddenly, oh my God, these new guys come in and we fixed it. You know, we didn't really know what was going on until January. So, and it's only ever going to be, he probably could. We'll never know if he did it, he would or not. But, you know, I think we move on from that, and you also recognize the good, the stuff that a good manager can do. And I think I was talking to you about, Joey, about in terms of what the impact he's going to have. And that's mainly around empowering basically everybody around them to do the right job as well as they can. So it's empowering the coaches and the players and all of that stuff. You know, how can he do that? And I think he's got the personality, which has meant I've always thought he's a good manager. Like, I haven't been the person who's kind of sacked him off after what happened with Chelsea, because, you know, you look at it, Derby, I saw some of the behind the scenes stuff at Derby. I was like, God, this guy's a leader. He knows what he's doing. He's getting the best out of players. And then I know there's questions about, well, he should have just got them up. But actually, we're talking about young kids at Derby. I mean, they weren't an absolute shoo-in to go up. Chelsea, I thought he did a good job, you know, with what he had to deal with, that sort of chaos. And then things just went awry. And you're like, well, I heard Doug King the other day, like, he was saying it was a bit of a whirlwind for him. You know, you see what happened, but he basically got sacked from Chelsea within a month from being top of the league. A month later, he was sacked. You know, that's what we're talking about. Anybody can have a bad month, and he was sacked from Chelsea, and then he goes into Everton, and all that madness happens, and then nobody's going to pretend that his last tenure at Chelsea was any good. But I think, you know, you can zoom out and say, hang on.
I also think you're glossing over Everton as big in the way that you'd be like, oh, that was I think that I think it's impossible to construe the success or failure of Everton as well. Like, I don't think that was about, like, he kept them up and they shouldn't really have, I'm not sure everyone would have kept that Everton team up, and he had to go away from his footballing philosophies to keep them up. Like, he wanted them to play a certain way and he ditched it to keep them up, which I think a lot of managers this season wouldn't do. Like, this, he didn't think about his own brand in the same way as a Russell Martin or whatever did. Finish off your thought. Sorry, but there was, actually, I don't think you need to qualify the Everton thing. They're all questionable jobs, aren't they? And I don't mean that as, sorry, finish your point. I'm talking.
No, but I kind of see it like similar, but also different. So, like, I think any manager can have a bad job. I'm doing air quotes there. Like, it can do a bad job because of circumstance or chaos or anything that's, Mark Robins, for 2-3 months this season was doing a bad job at us. And yet you wouldn't suggest, over the course of 7 years, he's done a bad job. But at some point, any given point, things might not go your way. And I just think with Lampard, there was so much to reference in terms of the detail of what he was doing in some of those. And, nobody's saying he was perfect, but what you're looking for in a manager, ultimately, it's those skill sets. And I just always recall seeing them, the way that he approached players and the way that he approached the game, and the way that he was able to do some good stuff in his first 2 jobs. That's not easy. Let's face it, if you mess up your first job in football, unless you're Wayne Rooney, you don't get another one. And it's just like, that's the way that we assess football. And I know people saw it as a vanity hire, but actually I really like the idea that we just ignored the fact that it didn't go well for him at Chelsea, and just say, well, actually, no, has he got some of the skills that he wants to lead this club? Can he be a figurehead? And we went for it.
So there's a few things. And if you'll indulge me even more than you normally indulge me, have either of you read that book called How to Win the Premier League? I'm looking more at you, Dom, because it seems like the sort of thing that you would read, okay? It's an awful title. It's a terrible, terrible title for a book. But the audio book is available on Spotify. It's written by Ian Graham. And I finished reading it recently. Or obviously I listened to it because it's easier. And he was the gentleman in charge of Liverpool's data stuff, right? For the kind of what's he called, Michael Edwards, for the period that sort of crossed over between Brendan Rodgers and Jurgen Klopp, right? So Brendan Rodgers, if we're going to talk about sort of judgments of managers, good manager, bad manager, in your opinions?
Kind of.
I know it's terribly. I'd say I know it's terribly reductive, right? But if you're going to have to be forced into a one word, good or bad, Dom,
say good.
I'd say good. Good manager, has won the FA Cup. Most managers don't win fuck all. Has got at least one team promoted. Like, is done, I would say, lots and lots of good stuff. He's managed Liverpool. He nearly won the league with Liverpool at a time where they hadn't come anywhere fucking close to it in God knows how long. Yada yada yada. He got ditched from Liverpool doing really, really badly, right? But what it talks about in this book is that Liverpool had gone to a way of working where they wanted to prioritize data above just like intuitive signings, and that Rodgers, rightly or wrongly, just wasn't really going along with it. So he was desperate to sign Christian Benteke. And at the data department were like, he's not the right guy for you. He doesn't work to your style. But he's played consistently well against Liverpool and Brendan Rodgers teams. And Rodgers was like, this is my guy, right? At a different club, under different circumstances, that isn't a problem. Like, but they're under a set of circumstances where they're like, right, we're really heavily prioritizing our data team, rather than binning him and letting him do what he wants or whatever. So he gets the chop and he looks like a dickhead, but he's just like a sort of an internal collision. Like, it's just a set of circumstances that don't work together. But because you're the manager, everyone thinks that you're the president of the United States of America, who also is credited with having more power and influence than they actually have. So you're a dickhead and you're an idiot and you're a bad manager or whatever. But you're not really. You just haven't, maybe, like, the circumstances didn't come to pass. With Robins, I think Robins could have precipitated a sort of pull together of where we are now. The question is, is that over a long enough timeline, would Robins have led to diminishing returns in the way that I think he probably would have done? And actually, is this a hire for the next 5 years in a way that we didn't and again, this is speculative. Has King gone, well, look, I want to work in a certain way. There's enough reason to do this now. I'm dispassionate enough because I'm not like a fucking season ticket holding, Cov tattoo wearing, whatever else. I know it's going to piss people off, but even though at the time we were like, this is scandalous, has he maybe gone, this is probably the sort of thing that you do to make sure that the next 10 years are all right, even if it means that it's a bit out of order for the last 6 months or so?
Well, that's exactly what he's done, hasn't he? That's exactly what he's done. He won't come out and say specifically that, but I think we know he sees the football club.
But you and about 20,000 other people were like, this is unacceptable. Whereas,
it is, because there's two sides to this, isn't it? It's like, that is exactly what he's done, and that's not me. I can sit there and look at it and say, well, it makes sense to him. And actually, when he had that fans forum and he said everything he said, I did recoil a little bit, because I was like, okay, let's take this all in. And then I was like, well, okay, I get now, if that's his perspective and that's what he saw was happening, I get it. I still think it was incredibly harsh, because my view on sort of success and stuff like that. Even if Robins hadn't done anything this season, and then maybe he had some time and he did something last season, that's still 7, 8 of 8 good seasons. That's still good going. I don't believe in infinite perfection, so I'm all right with the idea that we're not just constantly going to win and win, and then the moment that the guy stops winning, you biff him off and get somebody else. So that's slightly different. But I think you're absolutely right on King. What he's done there is he views the football club as his kind of, ultimately it's an entire project, and it's a brand, and it's more than just a football. You see with all the commercial stuff he's doing. King loves the fact that he's now mates with Lampard. You know that. He loves the, not the ego, but maybe the ego, but he loves all that side of things as well. He loves building something.
Yeah, but I don't think that's as nefarious as it was. That was part of the reason that I was so fucked off about him hiring him. My worry was, this is a guy with, I think I overstated the fact that he'd done a bad job when we hired him, which is wrong on my part, and is another thing that I've been wrong about, right? So I'll hold my hands up. I was worried about it, one, because what it said about King, and secondly, because I thought that his record was shit. When you look at it back now, I think it's grey. Like, it's 3 clubs that I thought Derby's squad was better. Yeah. I thought Derby's squad was better than it was. It's not really. It's a very good squad, but Championship playoff final is probably its level. And Everton are a basket case. Chelsea are a basket case under 2 sets of difficult circumstances. You could argue they were bad jobs or good jobs either way. But it's not the star fucking appointment that I thought it was. Because even though he clearly loves being seen with Lampard, Lampard isn't he's not Wayne Rooney, to your point. He's not a vacuous non-manager, is he? He clearly is very, very, very hardworking, bothered, diligent, whatever else. He's not. This isn't just about him going to lunch with Doug King and that's what he's doing his job. No, this is a guy.
It's a package now, isn't it? Yeah.
And also, as much as we might laugh about the fact that this guy cannot tear himself away from a microphone, it's a big part of why there's 32,000 people in the stadium.
Oh, it's a different position now.
We were good 2 years ago. We were in the playoff semi-final 2 years ago, but we weren't as sexy as we are now. And us 3 might not give a shit about that, but it's good for the club to be sexy like that, because it's the money going in and everything else, isn't it?
What about Kylie Minogue? Kylie Minogue, I don't know if that's been planted, but if we get to the playoff final and there's an audience of 100 million people watching, I don't know what the number is, she might want to have something to say about that. Like, I mean, that's the sort of stuff that you do, isn't it? You suddenly connect with these sort of people. We're connecting with all the F1 stuff. It's a different beast now. And he's obviously got his views on what he wants his investment to be. And that's why he's stood on the pitch after the match, because it's his investment. I think he's very clear on that. He's been very open. I've put my money into this. So I want to steer it in the way that I think is the most prudent way of using that money. And I'm not knocking that.
And the only reason that I bring it up is that I think it's fair to say Robins could have done this, but equally by saying that, it makes it sound like you're saying Lampard hasn't done a good job.
No, it can be both.
It could totally be both, can't it?
Yeah.
And as well, we could never know either. And also, just because Robins could have done it, does that, if we make it a dispassionate decision, does it make it wrong to have fired him on that basis? No, probably yes, no, or maybe on that as well. But it does feel like things are pretty good at the minute, don't they? In a way that kind of I can see in 10 years' time, us looking back at this very specific moment in time and going, I don't think we quite realised how good we'd got it then.
Yeah.
I bet Luton are looking back at 2 years ago and going, I don't think we ever thought we'd see this meteoric rise stop and then go, it did.
They need to get a grip. They really do. I don't know. Twitter now just shows you a load of stuff that you accidentally click on and then you get more of it. I accidentally liked a Luton tweet the other day and now all I see is like Luton stuff and it winds me up. It's just like the Premier League creates this completely warped view of who your club is. And they just want to destroy everything that the people who got them up, they hate. The people, Edwards gets sacked, I'm not saying he was doing a great job this season, but maybe they're not Premiership level. Maybe they just got to a place and they've now got shit tons of money and they can develop and they can build a squad and a club and they can do that stadium or all the good stuff that you can build and make yourself sustainable. But don't kill everybody. They're still your players.
You say that, but I saw something earlier, and I don't know whether this is true. I look at Dom like your ChatGPT, Dom, like a sort of verification service, unfortunately. But I think I don't think you become eligible for your rest of your parachute payments if you go down 2 seasons in a row.
Oh, I thought it was a 3-year thing, regardless.
I'd have to double check it, but I saw a thing earlier that said. Ironically, because you'd think that they need protecting more than anyone else, but apparently if you go down again, it's like, sorry, you're fucked.
All right. I guess you still get the first whack, don't you? So I don't know.
I think if we went up next season, got 5 points, and then we were back to being like championship relegation scrappers, I'd just be like, I think give or take, this is still massively overall of the last 15 years. The highest we've been over that period. I don't think I'd be like, how dead?
I know. I almost don't care what happens in the Premiership. I wouldn't like to get smashed every single week, but I think we've got smart enough people at the club everybody says this, to do something about it. But like, I'm not going to, we've been at Wembley fucking 5 times in the last 7 years. Like, it's insane what we've got through. It's fine if things don't go our way for a little while now. It's okay.
But I think to that point is that it's probably worth, I think, this podcast, even as an example, we're talking about like, it's my fault to some extent. Is Ellis Sims not very good and whatever else? But I reckon if you had this as a time capsule and then you opened it up in 15 years, people would go, they had no idea how good they'd got it. Or they'd go, oh, they won the Champions League. And then they'd go, Neil had every right to have those high standards and to insist that Simeon Jackson went and got the ball out of the net.
To be fair, I still maintain that I did the right thing back then. I mean, there are levels to this game. And honestly,
of course, yeah.
Being happy with a 1-1 draw, get that ball. Yeah.
That book, by the way, talks about how, especially for a team that's doing well, don't take a draw. And so you're absolutely right, is that you're not only right sort of spiritually, you're backed up by the data, Neil.
Oh, always. I mean, I don't like it, but yeah.
The all-knowing, all-seeing data that exists, presumably in the cloud that they have these days, will also back you up on your bloody cloud. To back you up on the fact that you were right on that.
Can we talk about something completely different? Because I feel like it would be completely remiss of us not to even mention Jack Rodoni. Like, I mean, that man has just become a superstar. Earlier on in the season, it was like 2 months in. Somebody said it, I don't know who it was, but somebody said he's the closest sort of incarnation of Maddison since Maddison at this club. And while he's completely different, the one thing you have got is kind of the balance and the drop of the shoulder and all that sort of stuff, which he's doing more of. He did this turn the other day where he Cruyffed it in midair and just took away 2 players and just like, oh, it's so beautiful. Like, he's so confident right now. He's doing that sort of stuff and he's at the right time as well. What a perfect time to come into perfect form.
One, most importantly, today I'm getting my haircut on Saturday and I can't wait because my hair is fucked, right? It looks awful. Yeah. But do you know what I noticed about it today is I'm getting to the point where it looks almost exactly like Jack Rodoni's. That's how bad it is.
Are you going to take a photo in?
But no. As in, my hair at the moment is getting to the point where it looks like Jack Rodoni's, which is why I hate it so much. I've never seen the guy with the worst haircut, right? Second, I absolutely fucking adore, and I don't care what anyone else has got to say about it, the fact that Haji Wright and Victor Gyökeres are elite championship level strikers and have never once got the ball under control in their entire lives, as far as I'm concerned, right?
Yeah.
I have never seen a player in my entire life have the ball more under control than Jack Rodoni has in the last 6 weeks, to the point where it looks like he's inadvertently taking the piss out of people sometimes. There's like toe touches with the ball in midair where he's taking it away from two people, where you're like, I am certain that you know what you're doing there, but I don't know how that's possible to do it. At times it looks like he's juggling the ball.
Yeah. Sticky feet. The old sticky feet syndrome, yeah.
But I can't tell whether it's luck. I can't tell whether he's going through like a weird purple patch where it just looks like he's so majestic. But if you listen to what Lampard's saying about the kind of the extra stuff that Rodoni's doing in training and the kind of the extra, like the work that he's doing to become better, I think he didn't need to get as good as he's got in the last 6 weeks to be our player of the season.
Yeah.
But it ain't half helped. And the goals on Saturday kind of were a bit of icing on the cake.
Nobody expected him to be a guy brilliant in the air. Whether no, you don't need to be the guy who's flying in and getting all these headers, and yet he's now a massive threat.
But I think he's scored a few headers this season, hasn't he? Like of his goals,
I think
maybe half of them are. But is it 20 goal involvements for the season now?
It's 21 now, isn't it?
Yeah, 9 goals, 12 assists.
Yeah,
that's above Hamer.
Yeah, with some playoffs to go.
I was talking to Paul about this the other day. Maybe it's because Hamer was the first, that I don't see me loving Rodoni in the way that I loved Hamer, but also because Rodoni looks like he's learned football in an academy and Hamer looked like he learned football in the jungle. And that was always going to be my preference. But Rodoni's gone past like having a good season. Like he's now at the point where even for winning all of the awards and everything, he's had a fucking good season by the end of this. This is some fucking player.
Got some made-up data for you. Like, so my friends at Who Scored, they have him in the team of the season in terms of overall rating that they create themselves. I mean, I don't know what that means, but there we go. They're going to use it for some sort of reward, aren't they? They'll find a way to make an award out of it. So you know,
Dom, on the player sort of ratings thing of like these of like Who Scored. How much stock do you put in it?
Not much.
I've seen your ratings, Dom. I definitely know you do not put any stock in it at all.
No, I've got my own system. I've got my own algorithm, and let's just say it's not the same as Who Scored.
I'm obsessed at the minute of. So I think for attacking players, it works a lot better than it does defending players.
Oh God, yeah.
Because it's got no way of recording defensive actions that defenders didn't take. So if you were out of position, it doesn't record. Like, you could have made like however many is a good number of blocks, but if you were out of position for the goal that was conceded, it can't know, can it?
It just creates. If somebody does something by accident, you get this massive 1-point hit on your entire rating, and you could be brilliant all game long and do everything you want to do. And if this one thing happens by accident, it has the same weighting as something that is done on purpose.
But I think that evens out over a season, right? But if you're a centre...
Does it?
So I think if you're Thomas Vermaelen, right, I think you probably finish the season as an 8, because when you have a duel, you win it. But it doesn't account for the fact that when you're 60 yards upfield, when you should be in front of your own box, you weren't there. So it's like, it's not like you missed a thing. The thing is whether you won a duel. So you could still win a lot of duels, but if you concede a goal because you've decided to go fucking wandering, it doesn't take it into consideration. Does that make sense? Because the point is assigned based on the action that you've taken. But if you don't take the action, then you don't get the point. Like if you're not in the right place.
And I guess then they then get into the realm of defining the right place for the right player and all that sort of stuff. I think my biggest issue with it is simply the fact that everything is given the same. The algorithm gives the same value to this group of actions when they are completely different. And it's any assist gets this.
But I don't think it does.
It broadly does. I mean, you'll get 0.5 if you get an assist, from what I can tell. I
don't think it does. Or maybe the player ratings.
When I complained to them and they removed it, I complained to them a lot because they get stuff wrong. And when they remove the errors that aren't errors on players, you see the bump up and it's vaguely probably the same. But
I think that's a problem with the collection of the data as opposed to the statistical methodology.
Well, I guess the data's wrong and so that's why I'm complaining because it's not right. But the fact that the methodology then, puts on +5 or 0.5 or something because it's gone wrong and it's no matter, who it is or what situation, if you say, oh, this person actually did make an error, that same amount would kind of be removed or not removed. And like, this is my funny thing with this stuff. Like, I find it all as entertainment. So that's why I just laugh about everybody getting so hyped up about it every single week. They say, oh, here's the team of the week. It's like, it's just funny. Like, it's broad Football Manager data. Like, it's not real, but, I like to challenge it. You got it, haven't you?
You have, yeah. I would like to, at this point, by the way, I know that this is all my fault, but Dom has got a look on his face that I think would mirror most of the listeners right now, and also mirrors the face that he had when I saw him in Tesco after the game on Saturday, which is, I would rather be anywhere else but here right now.
Well, how long are we?
We're an hour and 10. I love talking about this, but if we hadn't lost them at the incredibly high level of scrutiny of City Unseen, we've definitely lost them on the howwhoscored.com ratings calculator.
There has to be some sort of mechanism where we get somebody to click right now. If you've got this far, tell us.
It is. Well, yeah, but the thing is, fuck them. That's the thing. Is that we don't want anyone. One of my favourite things in life recently was seeing that I got something like 30 likes on the tweet that I sent that said, people that tweet lyrics to Cov songs without thinking about the cadence or the syllables. Right?
Syllables.
Now that's never going to bang, that tweet. And it's not about banging tweets, right? But that there was enough in there that went, that's the only 30 people that I want to, and I know that those 30 people are still listening now, and they're going, I'm not enjoying it, but I'll tell you what I will do is I'll listen right to the end.
And that's 13 years, baby.
And I think that over especially the last 5 years, we're trying to whittle it down to that last 30 people. So if that's you, God bless you. Thank you so much. If it's not you, go and listen to something else, please, because this isn't going to change.
I love how at no point have we mentioned the fact that we're playing Sunderland in a few days' time. Like, build this up as, shall I give this a playoff title? Get people thinking that at some point it's going to come, and it just never comes.
Well, I'll tell you, so there's a couple of things here. One, I think it's sort of almost redundant because there's a load of different things that can happen. I'll try and keep this to 10 seconds. If Sunderland have got any sense, they'll just come and sit back against us at home and then we go out. That's that. Or they play like they have done and they don't score one goal in the last 6 games? Is that what they've done? Dom, I'm looking at you again.
Yes, I really thought they've lost their last 5.
So they either play like they're playing or they change. If they play like they're playing, we win. If they change, then we win. And ultimately, I think even if we get through, I think we probably get beat by Sheffield United. So I don't know how much analysis we need to put into it. But what we will do is we'll have the vibes. If we get through the 2 legs, we have the vibes podcast after we get to the final, right? And then we don't analyse that game either. We just go, hey, like that. like we did last time. Fucking everyone is going to go and do a thing where they go, well, there's a Sunderland podcast that's a bit like our podcast called What the Fork. And I've asked him whether we do a thing. And I think I might do that tomorrow. And that he'll say, fucking who cares, and then that'll be that. It's not going to tell us anything. We don't fucking know the future, do we?
Correct. We don't know. I guess the idea of the podcast is to kind of talk about it, though. Maybe. I don't want to. I'm tired. I want to go to bed. But like,
I think we just talk about whatever. Well, let's have go on. Let's have 5 minutes on it. Are we gonna?
You misconstrued what I said.
Go on.
I'm not bothered. We don't have to talk about it.
No, I would like to now. It's more a case. I mean, by the way, it's a podcast. You can turn it off if you don't want to carry on listening to it. I'm more thinking about you two. I could talk about this all night, but mainly me talking as usual.
Dom, you're up. What's going to happen in the playoffs?
I just sort of wanted to remark on is just like how different this feels compared to last time where we made the playoffs, where it just felt like everything and that dream of being close to the Premier League just felt so tantalisingly close at hand. And now we're back again so soon. It's just a duller feeling where it's like it's another playoff campaign. We know what this involves. It's not necessarily the be all and end all. I think part of it is also we've seen the teams that have gone into the Premier League over the last 2 years, and it's been carnage for them. There's just like, it's so hard to believe that we could go to the Premier League and do anything better than save us the tiniest morsel of dignity in the top flight. And I think part of it is also we know like what a huge gulf there is between ourselves and Sheffield United. So it doesn't feel like a 25% shot at the Premier League to me. It just feels like, well, if we can win the home leg, I think that's been a successful season, and what happens. I'm not like shaking with nerves. I'm not thinking this could change everything, us getting to the Premier League. It's just going to be more football next season. Whatever happens.
That was worse than I thought. Like, I never asked.
Neil?
Well, more than that. like it was. I mean, I'm not. I think there's definitely an element of like familiarity. We've only been there once, but it feels like you say, it feels a little bit different in a similar way where we've been to Wembley the first time, and then the second time we went, it was like a bit more. It's not novelty, but you're like, oh, I know what this is all about. So I definitely get that point. Although the way I felt trying to get into the playoffs, that second half makes me think I do still care. And I'm still I kind of want it. So, but I don't know until I'm in it. I don't really know how I'm going to feel. So right now I'm just quite joyful. I'm quite happy. Glad we got in. Always like the opportunity. We'll play Sunderland, and I fancy as like, well, the one thing I will say is all the stuff that's gone on in terms of how we've played, how Sunderland have played, what's going on. There's no telling what version of them is going to turn up. They've got some good players, and the playoffs whip up all sorts of focus and refocus amongst players. So I don't necessarily think they're going to be good or bad. We just don't know, and let's see how we get on. But one thing I will say is I'm definitely glad that we're playing them rather than Sheffield United over 2 legs. I think that makes a lot more sense to me. I just feel like I'd much rather take Sheffield United on in a one-off game. But yeah, I'm still very, very pumped up. I'm very, very hyped up, and I do very much want to win. I do very much want to get to the Premier League. I don't think I'm going to lose my mind if we do get there. I hope I'm not going to become a Luton fan and think that we need to sack everybody if we don't. We're not top of the league, or even if we get relegated. I just think it's all about experiences nowadays, and we've had loads of good ones recently, and this can just be another one on my list, hopefully. Joey.
I'm looking at you here, Neil, more than anyone else, right? The episode of Father Ted where what's it called? Flight into Destiny, where the plane goes. So Ted talks about when you live a life full of anxiety, the one thing it does is it means that you are ready for the crisis, right?
Yeah.
So for me, is when you live a life so negatively focused, is it means that these highs are like the most insane like level of joy that you can ever experience, right? For me, the idea that we could be the 5th time in 8 years at Wembley, having gone to Morecambe and having gone to fucking like Barnet and all of the places that we've been to and everything, to me, for someone that I know that for a lot of people that have listened to this for the 13 years that we've been going and everything, would be like, oh, he's negative and miserable and everything. That's just what I'm like. But you can't underestimate how much, when I saw you at Wembley, coincidentally, was it the first time or the second time on the
Probably
concourse?
It's just the best, isn't it?
It's just unbelievable. We didn't and I loved them shit days. Like, I loved the fucking, there's loads of relative merits to all of this and everything. The idea that this is anything other than, it'd be a shame if we get knocked out in the semis, but fuck me, we were in League Two less than 10 years ago.
Yeah.
This is absolutely fucking brilliant. This is really fantastic. And we were 17th in November. It's just a lovely time to be alive. It's a lovely time to be a Cov fan. And yes, I'd like to be able to buy a pint at half time. But it's also, we haven't even talked about this in terms of the moment of the week. How fucking good did it look when everything was sky blue?
Oh, mate, what a difference.
It's just lovely.
Everybody's singing. I don't even have a problem with the lyrics on the screen. It happened. I was like, oh, that's not actually a problem. Well, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. You sort of think, oh, we've got this idea of what makes a cool crowd. And then, no, it doesn't matter. Everybody's singing. Everybody's making a noise. Everybody's giving it some, it's class. Like that. Everybody calls it a tifo. Is it just a flag? Whatever it is.
Big flag. Let's call it what it is. Big flag.
Amazing big flag. Amazing big concept design. There's a hole in it now. Somebody sticks their head out of it every single time. It's so funny. It's just everything's coming together. It's such a great time at that stadium.
That's the other thing about all this that needs to be said, right? So that flag is concept's flag, or is a big part of that. And this is a guy that is a terrific person that has got a, internet name, but that we sort of vaguely know. We know that Royston Dooley is doing all the wonderful stuff with the board and everything, right? So all of this stuff is being done by people that you know.
People, yeah.
So whilst it's still big stuff, right, and it's still it's still got that nice League Two feeling of these are our people. It's still all of our. Do you know what I mean? It's still got that sort of Cov feel to it all. That it's not. Maybe that Arsenal tifo had. Maybe they know the exact people that manufactured that. It looked a bit shite.
Yeah.
But but maybe that meant a lot to them. I don't know. I think this is, I just think it's lovely, all of this. I think it's really
it's pinnacle stuff. This is this era. When are we ever going to have this era of 7 years again? You don't get to Wembley 5 years or whatever it is. You don't get to Wembley that many times being Cov. It just doesn't happen.
Or it gets better, and then it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt to enjoy it anyway.
Yeah,
but it's just.
Or if it gets better, and it's maybe at some point, maybe then it isn't good for another while. But we're not worrying about that. For now, it's just brilliant, and that's all we care about. That's all. Why would you worry about what might come or what it might not work? It might not work out for us in the Prem. Doesn't matter.
But I think where we started in terms of Sunderland analysis is they've got. I know that they have probably, as a net league position across the 92, are probably going to be on par or maybe even lower than us over the last 10 years. But what does their stadium hold? 55,000, possibly as close to 60? No, not as high as that.
It's in the 40s, isn't it?
High 40s, 50?
50, 50, something like that.
So what? And as well, rammed basically all the time. Although, is it? Because we keep coming up. But even still, right? So resource wise, they should be doing better than us. I can hear Dom typing to find it. Thank you, Dom. They should be a financial Goliath compared to our David, right? If we lose to them, I don't think there's much to be sad about. But if we beat them, 5 trips to Wembley in 8 years is unparalleled levels of success. There can't be many teams that have had 5. Yeah. And I think that it depends on what you want from football. Do you want this kind of the same people that are barking at Trent Alexander-Arnold leaving Liverpool? Do you want abject loyalty, like slavery level, like servitude, or do you just want to enjoy your time with your mates and whatever
give me a
else?
good moment at a good game, a big game, and seeing people you don't see very often. Give me those moments and give me a goal. Give me Gus Hamer's goal. People talk about, it hurts so much. Yeah, God, it hurts. I'm still feeling injustice of Man United, but my God, those goals feel brilliant. You don't get them back. They're just insanely good.
We imagine how long it's been for someone that's 60 now. They had to wait for that between the FA Cup final and now. We could wait that same length of time. It's really easy to wait that
at any given point. Yeah, this could be our last.
How many times have we been given it in the last few years?
Yeah.
Dom?
Yeah, I mean, it's like the prize at the end of it is huge, and it's obviously going to be a great moment if we get there. I suppose part of it is that we have it's kind of felt like we've stumbled into the playoffs this time, whereas last time there was real momentum leading right up until we got into the playoff spot. And it kind of feels, it doesn't feel like the end of something here. I don't feel like it is absolutely life or death that we win these playoffs. I think we can have a good season regardless of whether we win in the playoffs next season, and maybe it'd feel like we have some more momentum behind them. I think that's why I kind of feeling like this playoff campaign is almost a bonus, where I'm not actually like hugely emotionally invested in us achieving, because I feel like there's more that this team has to give. So I think that kind of sums up where I am, and it's just a very unique circumstance to be in the playoffs and up against a team that looks to be in such bad form, where you are already thinking about Wembley, and that could very well be famous last words, because by the way, we've been absolutely dreadful away from home recently, and it does feel very important that we win this home leg
heavily.
Yeah, because we've completely lost the ability to play away from home. But to be in the playoffs and feel like there's a stronger than 50% chance of making it through the semi, that's not something we had in the last two, where that really added to the jeopardy of it. I remember, just really not wanting to lose to Notts County at all. And then Middlesbrough was just like, well, if we can beat them, then what's going to stop us? This is a different playoff campaign where it's like we've actually got what looks to be an incredibly good chance of winning the semi-final, and then the final is just like, please just show up on the day.
I think that the key to this is dominating the first leg in a way that we didn't do the first two. Both of those first two, I don't think we get to go to the Stadium of Light in the same way as we got to go to the Riverside and the County Ground, and I don't think we're going to go and get a result at the Stadium of Light in the same way. It's just not going to happen. I think you have to really put them up. Bearing in mind that the idea is they're in disarray and they haven't done much for ages, I think it's too big a place to go at even 0-0 and just expect that we're going to... I know we've won there recently. I think the way that things are going, there's a chance to win this semi, and that chance is winning the first leg 2-0 and then turning up there and being like, your turn, and then being like, well, we haven't won a game 2-0 or 3-0 for fucking ages.
What are we supposed to do?
So we actually don't know how to deal with this. Whereas if we go there at 0-0, I think they could go, well, let's remember that we're a bigger club than Coventry. And whether people like to hear it or not, they probably are. So, but I think it's exciting, isn't it?
Yeah.
How dare we turn our nose up at anything other than excitement in life?
I like it. I'm excited now.
I think you were excited before, right?
I'm very much excited because now I realise it's only a couple of days away.
I'm beside myself. And I'm annoyed with you, Dom, saying that you're more excited previously. I am like a dog with two dicks over here. And I think that part of it is because of the experience of it. And I wonder whether this is, when people talk about like Champions League experience, I wonder whether this is what they mean. That like, if you're Everton going into the Champions League and you've never played, that you're just so excited about playing that it clouds your judgment. Like that Middlesbrough game, when I went to the Riverside, all of us were shaking, apart from Paul's daughter, who was about 7 at the time. And she was like, "You're grown men, pull yourselves together."
Relax.
Whereas this time round, maybe in the second leg I will be, but now I'm like, this is what a fucking unbelievable fucking mitzvah to be given this thing of like, you've had 46 games that you've felt ambivalent towards, and now it's really exciting.
Yeah. And you're one of them, yeah.
You don't get it very often. What a joy.
Well, we do.
Well, we do, and this is the thing. Right, okay. Right, any other thoughts, feelings, queries, motions before we all go and die a death?
No, that was a jolly good 90 minutes, I think. I think we covered basically not much, but it covered a lot at the same time.
We covered nothing and more.
Oh, yes.
There you go. That's what you get with us. Neil, thank you, love.
Thanks so much.
Dom, love you to bits.
Cheers for having me.
And thank you, listener. Bye.